Because I think like it sounds intimidating, mental health. It sounds like heavy, and it's not. It's really fun. It is something that you do for yourself, and we all have stresses in life, and so that's like my primary uh passion to make mental health accessible, and also have like community conversation, community events, as well as talking to people about without stigma, what mental health is all about.
Well, first of all, I have to say, if I had a doctorate degree, you couldn't call me by my first name. My son would be calling me Dr. Mommy. So I love a humble queen. I really appreciate you for saying that. Second, what really stood out is what you said about making mental health services accessible.
Yes.
I think that's so important, especially I can only speak as a woman of color, as a Black woman, how taboo it is in our community. And from my friends and my loved ones that I know that are in immigrant communities, you double that, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always seem like something that you can attain. So talk to us a little bit more about the intentional work that you do, bringing in Somali culture, bringing in language, bringing in Islam, and how important it is for you to serve your community specifically. What's up, y'all? Girl Shakira, two times reporting live. And this is Shaq with the facts. Yay! Shaq with the facts on the mic reporting live. What's up, y'all? It's your girl Shakira 2 times, and this is Shaq with the Facts, a podcast where I uplift, highlight, and spotlight Black and brown businesses here in the Twin Cities. Now, today's episode is just like the rest. It is a special one, okay? I happened to meet this individual at a really dope Black vendor fair at the B Suite, shameless plug, and she stood out to me because she's so humble, she was so kind, so knowledgeable, and she brought a bunch of swag, a bunch of free treats. She just drew me in. Since then, we built a bit of a relationship on social media. We bonded over the atrocious times that we're having right now in this country, in this city, and we decided to schedule an interview. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Hassan of Hassan Counseling. How are you doing?
Well, I mean, relative, but good.
Yeah. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I said earlier, you have such a warm spirit. So it's exciting to sit down and talk with you one-on-one.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a fun day it was, by the way. Shameless plug, B Suite. What a phenomenal space, though.
Yes, I
had a
love
great
the B
time.
Suite. We're all about supporting Black businesses, which
Yes.
is what brings you here.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. I want folks to know who you are and what you do. But like I mentioned, this is Dr. Hassan. Okay, put some respect on her name. I'll let you tell me who you are. So tell us who you are and what you do at Hassan Counseling.
My name is Ashfaq Hassan, Dr. Hassan. I go by Ashfaq Hassan most of the time, unless I'm teaching. That's the only time, really. And I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Thank you. And I have I'm the founder of Hassan Counseling, and I started in 2017 here in the Twin Cities. My office is located in New Brighton, and really I'm all about community service, mental health advocacy, mental health accessible to everyone. Because I think like it sounds intimidating, mental health. It sounds like heavy, and it's not. It's really fun. It is something that you do for yourself, and we all have stresses in life, and so that's like my primary passion to make mental health accessible, and also have like community conversation, community events, as well as talking to people about without stigma, what mental health is all about.
Well, first of all, I have to say, if I had a doctorate degree, you couldn't call me by my first name. My son would be calling me Dr. Mommy. So I love a humble queen. I really appreciate you for saying that. Second, what really stood out is what you said about making mental health services accessible.
Yes.
I think that's so important, especially I can only speak as a woman of color, as a Black woman, how taboo it is in our community. And from my friends and my loved ones that I know that are in immigrant communities, you double that, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always seem like something that you can attain. So talk to us a little bit more about the intentional work that you do, bringing in Somali culture, bringing in language, bringing in Islam, and how important it is for you to serve your community specifically.
I have to a little bit backtrack of what it was for me growing up in Minnesota, growing up Black, Muslim, and Somali. And those are factors that we cannot ignore even today. It's like one of the primary factors that brings sadness in the narrative around my community, Black community, Somali community, Muslim community, led by the leadership, and we're not going to get into it. However, these are primary factors that really always have been there. So it just didn't start now. It always have been there. And growing up 9/11 here in Minnesota was like something that really impacted me as a child, as a high schooler, and then also going on to college, graduate school, all my academic years, but also as a young clinician being in the field. So it was very Eurocentric, Western lens, very Eurocentric. So that already is like problematic at itself. And then there's like the other dimension, that social determined factors that has been so overlooked. So in my early years, those were like some of the variables that were not talked about, that were not taught. Intersectionality and mental health was really God.
Oh yeah, sounds like a lot.
Yeah, for many communities were so neglected. It was just so pathologizing, so not culturally centered, so not holistic, and communities. And as a young clinician, I felt like it did not speak to me. And I had to advocate a lot for many of our communities, for many of our clients. And trust me, being as an intern, being in a settings that I felt the hostility, the lack of warmness, the lack of cultural humility. It was like some days, though, I have to say, some days I marvel and look back and think like, how did I survive in this field?
Man. Yeah, and to get through all of that and then now have your own practice.
Yes.
And you said 2017, girl. You've had Hassan Counseling for almost a decade.
Yes.
And I don't know how old you are. I assume we're around the same age.
No, I'm older.
Really?
I'm older.
Well, black don't crack. You could have fooled me. But either way, so almost a decade as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. Please talk to us about that and how it's been coming up on the almost 10-year anniversary of your counseling.
Yes, and that stemmed really from a hostile work environment, actually. And it's really linked to the lack of intersectionality and looking at the social determinant factors of like, the barriers many communities face, and then always being in the brink of like advocating for families and then being shut down, advocating for communities and then being shut down, advocating for everything that I stood by, and then eventually, and then being a mom and the hostility as a mom in the field. And so one day I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and start my own thing, and finding that voice and confidence within me, because I believed in the work that I do. I believed in how to bridge that with many communities and how to really provide excellent service that families and individuals and kids like felt seen and safe. Most importantly, the number one, feeling safe in a space that they enter, and really representing in a way that families can walk in and they don't have to explain themselves of who they are linguistically, culturally. And I think within immigrant community, that bridge of like I understand as a clinician what that means for families, for young kids, and then also that generation divide of like families being like parents being hesitant but kids being ready for therapy. And
first of all, I want to go back to what you said about your transition from working somewhere that was a hostile work environment into entrepreneurship. I truly believe, and I'm going to look in the camera when I say this, behind every entrepreneur is a fed up, burnt out, exhausted worker who was fleeing a hostile work environment. So we've all been there. So kudos to you for taking that leap and being 9 years strong in what you're doing. And you can tell from every question you've answered thus far that you're super passionate about it and that you love what you do.
I do.
And that just makes me so happy, especially when we're talking about like the mental health of our youth and of our elders, of our community in general. So thank you for what you do. You are needed in the community. And funny enough, personal story, so I grew up in Burnsville, and I'm still friends with almost everyone from my junior high school friend group, and the makeup is 2 Somali young ladies, a black woman from New Orleans. She literally escaped Hurricane Katrina and moved to Burnsville, myself, and then my best friend who's Mexican. And we were talking about mental health and therapy, and one of my homegirls who is Somali was like, I'm the first person in my family to go to therapy, and I've never been honest to my therapist. Like, I'm just not there for that. Like, I don't even, so it's funny coming into this interview and talking to you and hearing you say that my friend, we're in our early to mid 30s, and she still doesn't feel like she can have these conversations about her mental health with her mom. So that intersectionality that you talk about and that barrier between the age gaps, I think is really real.
It is real. It is so real. And it is also like something that within our community, and specifically Somali community, we don't talk enough about it, just because I think there's like a really the prevalence of stigma.
Yep.
That subsides like really the benefit of therapy. And I'm so happy. However, younger generation are pushing back on that stigma, and they're ready to tackle and take their wellness and their well-being serious.
Girl, Gen Z, they're not afraid of anything. They're not afraid of nothing. So yes. I do respect that.
Yes,
for
yes, sure. Yeah. And they're pushing back. They're pushing back on like, you know, the prevalence of many things and also the narratives around it. And they're treating as something that it is as important as, like, you know, physical. You know, because it is. It is, absolutely. And I love that for them. And I love that they are, like, you know, leading that advocacy, but also leading by doing it too.
Walking the walk and talking the talk.
Yes, they are seeking the therapist. They are, you know, and also they also many talking about it. Many even bring back their parents. So I have had many who brought back their parents and then allowing me to facilitate that.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, and that's so powerful and beautiful. And also, for me as a clinician, using that space as a safe space to facilitate a conversation like that.
Yeah.
Because I do understand where the kids are coming from, but also where the parents are coming from because of culturally embedded narratives and what that means and all of that. So all those variables coming into the space, but holistically facilitating that as well too.
Yeah, that was important.
Very much.
Yes. Yeah. So you are more than a therapist and a clinician. You are a community leader, you're an entrepreneur, you're a content creator, and much more. Yeah. Tell us about how all these unique gifts are brought to your day-to-day life at Hassan Counseling.
Yes. So I think here's the number one thing with my content creation and the like my presence online is like individuals looking for a therapist that's so cookie cut and clean. And sometimes, you know, finding a therapist can be really overwhelming.
I'm there right now. It's like dating. Arguably it's harder than dating.
It really is.
Because there's more options.
It is. And so finding a therapist is really, really hard. And also many therapists, we all are presenting ourselves like in a cookie cutter way that it is like so neat. And I want when a person's scrolling through my Instagram to just get a sense of person that they can connect with me and that they feel like, okay, this is a person that I would like to open up to and take and invite them. Because like as a therapist, we are being invited into the journey that you are embarking on. And so that anybody that's looking on like, oh, this person and this clinician represents me and I feel comfortable. So that's number one. Number two is also the opposite, that you look over and it's like, this person's not for me. It also saves time for everybody as well. And then the other part is like, I am really genuine and authentically showing up who I am, whether it's like for young kids or families. And also, you know, I was at a conference and somebody was like, oh, I cannot find you online. And I was like, oh. And so I also noticed like the importance nowadays of like your presence online matters as much as like your presence outside. So it's very important. And I think making that switch as a business owner of like, you know, authentically showing up online of who I am and really inviting that individuals can get a glimpse of like, you know, who's Dr. Hassan, who is she as a clinician, and that they feel comfortable. I think like you will get the sense of like what you're looking for, and so that's really my primary goal.
Yeah, well, I have to say I did some deep diving and I love your social media. It, like you said therapy can be made to seem very cookie cutter, but yours is very much like it could serve as therapy, also like an informational page, but also like, I don't want to say a meme page, but what I mean by that is some of the things that you post are like so relatable that I would just repost them on my story. They might not even be specifically pertaining to mental health. And I really like that. It just is, it's very relatable. It's very down to earth. And I know that I've gone to therapy for years, maybe 6 or 7 years, and I've had one therapist throughout that whole time who made me feel the same way, that the vibe and the energy that you give as a therapist. So it's few and far in between. You should definitely pat yourself on the back, brush some dirt off your shoulders. And I think that amongst a lot of things, simply what sets you apart is, I know you said that you're older than me, but being around the same age, being a Black woman, those things automatically set you apart, because I'm sure most people can attest when you're looking for a therapist, it's so hard to find a black therapist. Start there. And then a Black woman at that. So I think that you're doing a really good job at getting that message across.
Thank you. And it's really with intentionality. The main part is, I think that I have the goal, like my primary goal is like to make therapy less intimidating.
Mm.
So I put a lot of about stress factors, meditation, how to de-stress, how to simplicity really. And I hate the commodification of that therapy is really expensive.
Okay,
I
let's
really
get
hate
into that because from what I know, and also let's get into this woman's vocabulary. Look, I have a bachelor's degree, so I don't know what commodification means,
Okay.
but it rolled off your tongue so well that now you have to tell me, and I'm going to start using that word. So thank you.
I think like ultimately in simple, that it is so expensive and that it is commodified that not everybody has access to it.
Okay, so it just
Yeah.
seems like you just can't.
You
It's
can't.
it's impossible.
Yeah. Like everything else within the medical setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes through insurances, it comes through the access, it comes through high deductible, it comes through the co-pays, things like that. So when you look at it and you pay all your bills and then you're like, oh my God, therapy session and my deductible is this and I have to meet this and I have to meet that. It is so disencouraging. It is.
And by the way, Dr. Hassan, you probably know this better than me, but it's meant to feel intimidating. That is all a part of systemic racism, if you ask me. It is absolutely meant to feel like it's something that's out of our reach.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why in all the community events, I have like flyers for informative information, simple steps to do for yourself, deep breath, like things that are really not gatekept, but for the masses to have an access to. And also along with that is like the community events that I do, like open community in the libraries, activities for kids and families. And I think like a lot of things, like it's so segregated that families cannot do together, where a preschooler, an elementary student in high school, and a grandpa can partake together. Our communities are so segregated by age too. Like it's only for young kids. It's only for, not even a lot of middle school unless it's sports related, right? So with my community activities within the libraries or any partnerships to make it accessible for the whole family.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. We'll have to talk more about these community activities at the end because we need to know when the next one is and how we can get there.
Yeah.
So I did a deep dive on you and your path, and I saw that you went from law to therapy, which really stood out to me, especially like with the pressure that comes with immigrant families, like to have the respected career, quote unquote. So how does that experience influence you, and then what caused that leap?
Yeah, so coming from an immigrant Somali family household, it was either medical engineering or like really the bigger narrative, or like law school. And early on, I was very vocal. I hate science. I hate STEM. None of it. And so then, I was very vocal about that. That I did well, but I knew that I will not be interested nor passionate about anything in that regards. But I was really passionate about human rights, literature, history, global studies, like all of that within the humanity. And so I did pre-law and kind of was like, I'm gonna do law school because it seemed like very prestige. And that elitism comes in a lot too. But I felt like something that it is like, would make also my parents happy. And so so I did the LSAT. I went to San Francisco, and it was because of like an internship that was through social activism in Berkeley and civil rights. And so in that in the Bay Area, and that spoke. I know
you spent some time living in Cali.
Yes.
Cool, me too. We gotta talk about that later. I love that for you.
Yes, and I so within being in the field, I hated everything about it. I hated the fact that the legal aspect, but not the human aspect. And one of the partners told me like, "You're not their shrink. You need to move on quickly."
And a light bulb went off.
It did, and I was like, you know what? I should become a shrink.
So they thought they ate with that, but actually, thank you.
It really helped me. It was really, I love the human aspect. And it was doing civil rights work with unhoused people that were unlawfully kicked out from housing.
Oh, amazing, especially in the Bay Area.
In the Bay Area,
houselessness is
yes. It
awful.
was very systemic, and I love doing the social justice work. I love doing the advocacy, and there was like a social worker and psychiatrist department, and I just like tagged along, and I love the work that they do, and they did, and so I still got like my certificate in conflict resolution and mediation, and I completely pivoted within the Bay Area to counseling, psychology. So I got my master's in counseling psychology, and then
at what point were you like, this is exactly
this
what I
is
should be
exactly. I
doing?
felt like once I switched the program, once even within that department, I switched to the psych and did youth work in the Tenderloin in the heart of San Francisco, working with LGBTQ plus youth who were also unhoused and faced like a lot of like difficulties and barriers within that area. You know, I just was like, I'm here. I love this work,
Right.
and I felt really every day I was excited to go to learn, whether it's like the theoretical aspect of being in class or the practical side of being in the community. And so
Yeah.
it took a couple years to convince like my dad, but then essentially my sister became an attorney, and so
Well, so there you go. It is what it is.
she
Yeah.
is an attorney now in Manhattan,
Oh my
in
gosh.
Brooklyn, and all the boroughs defending young youth, and we collaborate sometimes together from a clinical as well as like from the legal field. So I think I kind of make it use in a different way. But
Oh, you absolutely do.
but I think it was really an eye opening to learn those. You know, that attorney like you not the shrink, and I was like, maybe I should become a shrink.
Period. Oh, well, shout out to that attorney. I don't know where you are today, but Dr. Hassan is the shrink.
Yes,
okay?
yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so in the Black community in general, but specifically in the immigrant community, therapy is so taboo. A lot of us are ashamed to sign with our therapist, or even sometimes like hide our healing journey because we're ashamed to talk about it.
Yeah.
What is your biggest goal as a therapist to kind of just like kick that out and get rid of that taboo feeling in the community?
Yeah. And I think it's multiple variables or I like that fuels that shame, right? So I think like first it's like once people feel comfortable with me, it allows them to really tackle like what that look like for everyone. And it's so I think I see like a lot of parallels between the Black community and immigrant community. And so there's that personal like that failure because like therapy is only for people that look like that are like in a certain space, and it's not me. That's number one. But then also like there's the other parallels that I see, like you should pray more, lean more into God and worship. Both parallels very very common. If you go to church more and have more Jesus in your life, and then there's like the other part, like if you read more the Quran and do more like the dua, then you. So I think there's those both narrative fuels that part of like, well, and for many it's you're doing great both, and you don't have to abandon. So by the way, you don't have to abandon that.
You just absolutely need both.
Exactly, you need both, and you add therapy on top of it. So you don't have to fully neglect of like the world that you come from, but also tackling that inner voice, that inner narrative of what's feeling that shame, that why you like, you know, what that idea. And I asked all my clients like, have they been to therapy before? And I was like, what's your experience like? How did that go for you? And I think it's important to know if like, was there harm done in therapy? Because sometimes there's also
it's like
harm.
church hurt. I don't know like if that's an experience in your community, but yeah, people will. I have been guilty. The gentleman behind the camera knows my struggles with church hurt, but you know, you can't hold on to that and take that with you for every single experience. You absolutely. I mean, it's no different than dating. You absolutely have to go with a clean slate, because at the end of the day, this is something that's going to help you.
Right. So yeah, your growth, your path, also overcoming that inner voice of like, you know, whatever it is so different for each person, but that voice of like that has you that bigger umbrella feeling of like what mental health is. And so I think like tackling together and allowing that slow healing can you know, sometimes people tell themselves healing needs to be like speedy fast, you know. That pace is like whatever is good to you and feels comfortable.
And I want to ask you, did you go to therapy before you became a therapist? And once you answer that, how has therapy changed your life?
Yeah, so I did not go before because I just like entered into the field. And when you are in graduate school, we are all required to do that work, and it is intimidating. I think that's why it's like for me, I empathize and I understand to open up to a stranger, come into a stranger's office, be with a stranger, unpack, and then when I was doing narrative trauma work, then you're also unpacking like, you know, what are some of the narratives, some of the things about your childhood, you know, how you see the world, the lenses, and also structurally, like how do you make sense of like socially structured ideas around you. So and for me personally, it was also postpartum. It's another postpartum hits you so hard. So people think postpartum is like just the first year. No, postpartum can go up to like 3 years, 4 years. And how do you come back to your old self and knowing your own baseline? And that was another thing that I had to unpack and learn. And then I learned, oh wow, postpartum is not only the first year, it's like 3 years, 4 years down the line. And so and then I'm looking for my own therapist and figure out like who can understand me. And that I also understand like, oh, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Finding a provider is really hard.
Yeah.
And you don't also want to run into your colleagues as well.
Oh my gosh. Has that ever happened to you?
No, but so you kind of like, you don't want to run into the same colleagues, you know, you sift that through and it takes a lot of intricate work.
Yeah.
So, and that makes me, I think, like a more of an understanding provider and a clinician knowing like the hard work it takes to find like a good therapist.
Yeah.
In that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you too, I mean, if we were able to take away this like invisible quilt of guilt and shame that comes with therapy in our community, what would you say is like the perfect age for a child to start seeing a therapist?
There is no such thing as a perfect age. I think like it is really about each child and the stressors that they come across. So some kids might occur as early as 2, some stressors, or 18 months. And what does that look like therapy with a 2-year-old? It's play-based with a parent, play-based together, and helping them emotionally regulate, like how to regulate their body, how to find words as a, 2-year-old, how to make sense environmentally of the spaces that they're in, and that stress tolerance aspect for like little ones. I would say like for a parent, always look at what your child is going through and how they are developmentally meeting milestones, how they're developmentally doing in the spaces that they are in. Are they more like attached, fearful? Each child is just so different. However, do not hesitate to find a provider.
Yeah.
If you feel like your child could benefit from play-based therapy or therapy at all, always reach out and talk to the provider. So finding a provider that can walk you through the benefits of therapy, what you're seeing at home, all of that.
Yeah.
Milestones like, are they meeting the milestones 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and then that 10 to 12, what that looks like. And then also like young teens, like, and also I want to emphasize young teens are going through a lot more stressors than that we ever have.
Yeah.
And the stressors are like, whether it's social media, whether it's like friends, whether it's like the phone, a lot more stresses that impact their mental health, their well-being, but also suicidal ideation that we cannot overlook. So I would say even like for young kids, like having that conversation at home of what their stresses and their daily stresses looks like at home and at school.
Yeah. Now I have one more question and then we're going to move into some fun.
Yeah.
This question is the opposite of fun. So obviously we're wearing these amazing shirts today that say MN nice, but fuck ice. And I just want to ask you, you said, you've been in Minnesota your whole life. You are a Somali woman. How, with the attack on immigrant families
and
businesses and people as a whole in Minneapolis specifically right now, what are you doing to, just help your clients and like keep them feeling inspired and keep hope alive? How is that showing up in your practice during this time?
I think it's showing up in multiple ways. I have to say many families are in fear. They're in like in high stress overall, where I'm working with my colleagues, a lot of my colleagues, like how to help families. Many are too scared to go outside and grocery shop, to just meet their basic needs of like doctor's appointment, grocery shopping. So we have been like triaging and helping many families in that aspect of the basic needs. And then there is also like many are very hopeful. They're leaning into the community. They are talking about their resilience of coming from refugee camps and starting from scratch and not knowing how to survive in Minnesota, and now it's like another barrier that they are very hopeful and positive in the sense of like, they're showing their resilience and strength of what their plan is and that they see hope ahead. So that is like, I think like spending time the last week with many people just to see that beauty. the love that they got from a lot of Minnesotans, that they are part of, no matter what the narrative is and how they are painted, that they are part of the community, and that they are like, prevail and still rise from all of this. And then on a personal level, I think like it's just one day at a time, really.
Yeah.
One day.
And how does a therapist keep their mental health intact?
Yeah.
Especially, let's get into that. Because, personal trainers, they go to the gym, right? Do you have a therapist?
Yeah.
What is that process like?
Yeah.
And especially with everything that's going on right now in the world.
Yeah.
How are you doing it, girl?
Right. So it's really, really a tough time, especially like the need that there is, and also the sense of like crisis is all over. I do not have currently my own therapist.
Dr. Hassan.
I know. Just because I'm like also running all around. However, I have colleagues in group consults. Like
Good.
me and my colleagues are like coming together and consulting together, which has really helped tremendously. I am really a very, very, very advocate of like self-care and wellness, and that's not just like like bubble bath and things like that, but really incorporating like time limits in terms of like time that dedicate to just being meditation and being present, and deep breath work.
Yeah.
Very, very, like I set my time, I set my watch where I'm just like just solely focused on my breathing.
Dr. Hassan, I'm terrible at breathing.
Really?
To the point where, okay, not to be all TMI, but one time, a long time ago, before I was in a relationship, I was being intimate with somebody. While I was being intimate, they were like, "Do you breathe?" Like I was having sex and I wasn't breathing, Dr. Hassan. So I have noticed, and my labor with my son was 32 hours long. I know it's because I wasn't breathing right. So that's going to be a part 2 because I need to learn how to breathe.
Yes.
But thank you for touching on the breath work because I know it's important. Yeah. I damn near need a therapist just to help with that alone.
Yes. Yeah. No, breathing is so important, and intentional breathing. Intentional breathing where you put a timer on. I have so many gadgets, so many things, and I do it in increments, like early in the morning before when my kids are up, and I do all my I start with that, and then midday, like around 1, and then in the evening too, so that because I realized like the more I neglect that part, the more I carry it in my body.
Look, now you got me.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, noted.
Really, breath work, please. Like, breath work is so important.
Okay.
And also, like, intentional breath work of, like, timing yourself, clearing your mind, and sitting, and then also journaling, too. Like, journaling all the things that I'm really, grateful for, and also things that I want to let go.
Yeah. Ooh,
yeah.
That's
just let it go.
Key. That's important.
Things I journal it, and then I just to
burn it.
Yes, like letting go. And it's very like we all are human, so breathwork takes a lot of intention and a lot of commitment, and starting slow.
Facts or cap?
All right, so this next segment, we're going to loosen up a little bit. We're going to kick our feet up.
Yeah.
This segment is called Facts or Cap.
Okay.
So in this quick segment, I am going to say a couple of statements pertaining to the work that you do with Hassan Counseling or anything that we've talked about in this interview.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me if it's true, facts, or if it's cap, false. And you can quickly elaborate, okay? All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Hassan, facts or cap? Mental health is just as important as physical health.
Absolutely, facts.
Period. Okay, stand 10 toes down.
10 toes down. Oh my God.
Okay, I love it. Facts or cap? You at Hassan Counseling are open to new patients and clients right now.
Ooh, fully booked.
But here, wait, let's say that again. That's a good thing. I'm glad that you're booked and you're busy. That's a good thing.
However, early spring, April. So yes, yeah.
Okay, amazing.
So it's kind of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Facts or cap? Because I didn't get to ask you this in the interview. Is Hassan Counseling only virtual or do you offer in-person sessions
both
too? Amazing. Where are you located?
I am located in New Brighton.
Amazing.
So both office as well as virtual.
Okay, good to know. Facts or cap? Breathing the right way can literally increase your quality of life.
What's the right way?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
I think just starting breathing. 1 minute of breathing absolutely will so much increase your quality of life. Yeah.
So literally, what do you mean? Just 1 minute of breathing? No talking, no moving, just breathing.
Just breathe. Focusing. Even like holding your hands on your belly and focusing solely on your breathing and how your stomach goes up and stomach goes down. That's it. I think like when we say like there's a right way and wrong way, we overcomplicate. So just breathing, focusing on your belly, through your nose, out your mouth. Simple as that.
Amazing.
Yes.
Good to know. It's time for the
It's your
spotlight.
time to shine.
Yeah, so Hassan Counseling, and you can find us at Hassan_counseling through Instagram, and then community. So that part also, we had to cancel a lot of our January.
No, can I keep this? Because this is like, people should know that Black businesses, or immigrant businesses are suffering because of the hate.
Yeah.
So for now, we don't have any community events.
So all community events have been for community safety. And also we want community participation, because these events are for the community, by community member. And a lot of the partnerships that a lot of small Black business collaborating with me. And so we all felt the right thing to do right now that we prioritize is community safety. And so till further notice, till we feel really comfortable about all community events have been like postponed. However, we are working on online events to substitute it. So just like the way it was a couple of years ago, via Zoom, things like that.
So we basically, y'all, we are on lockdown and acting like it's COVID because the federal government is terrorizing our city. And she's just so graceful and nice about it. But that's absolutely terrible, but still a great way to support her. So make sure that you follow her, you support her. Yes. She's amazing. And like she said, early spring, she'll have some openings. Yes. I will be first in line.
Please, oh my God. And that one will be, so it was supposed to be in January, but Pilates on the floor with the DJ and breathwork. Because shout out to Atelier, who we did our last community event in December, which was like reformer Pilates. And Pilates spaces have been historically not for Black and brown women.
Yeah, but lately we've been making our way. Yes.
So that is coming up hopefully in early spring, when we can resume.
When the ice is melted.
Yeah, when the ice.
If you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.